Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm just going to be chatting with you about the books that I have been reading. Sorry, let me fix that. So this is going to include my June readings, July readings, and I'll talk a little bit about August even though the month isn't over. So I wrote them all down in my little reading journal and I'll just go through them. So for June, I read The Go-Giver, which I have an entire review about. I will put it in the cards or in the description, but it looks like this. It is a short little business fiction book. I really enjoyed it. I rated it a 5 stars, and it's just pretty interesting, all the things that the character learns along the way. So his name is Joe. Joe is the main character, and he is wanting to get ahead in his workplace. He works for a corporation, I believe, and he ends up meeting this really successful business guy, and the business guy agrees to give him these tips on success, but the catch is that he has to apply each lesson that he learns in the same day that he learns it, or else the deal is off. It's really good like perspective if you're a business owner or entrepreneur, or if you just want to do better like at your job, at any job. I feel like it's really good. So 5 stars. I forgot to say that, hold on. So I forgot to mention that most of these books I listen to on audio. As I mentioned in another video, my eyes have been bothering me, so it led me to all of these great audiobooks, but needless to say, I'm not following my summer TBR. The Go-Giver, I think, is like the only book that I finished on that TBR. But I did read some pretty good books, so I'll get into the next one. It's called The New Year's Quilt by Jennifer Chiaverini. So this is part of the Elm Creek Quilt series. I really like the series. I really like her books, and the theme of friendship and forgiveness is just woven into every book. The New Year's Quilt, it was okay, but I read multiple books at one time, so the other books kind of competed for its attention, and I just personally felt that it wasn't as interesting as some of her other books. It's kind of a little bit of a reflective piece, so I do like that aspect, but I don't know, there was just something about it that wasn't super interesting to me. And even though, yes, I was reading these other books, there are still books that I guess I'll mention maybe for like July or this month in August. Um, I still read, those books in, not in conjunction, but as I was reading other books, and they all still kind of like kept my attention well, but I don't know, I just wasn't like too into this one. But it is basically about Sylvia and her new husband Andrew, and they're going over to I think one of Andrew's children's house. So they're an older couple, and I I think it's some of Andrew's children don't approve of the marriage. None of the children came to the wedding, and so they're going over there for New Year, for the New Year, and Sylvia is basically reflecting on how she celebrated the New Year. Is it New Year or New Year's? I think it's New Year. But she's reflecting on how she celebrated that when she was a kid, and the importance of keeping New Year's traditions. And so that part is interesting. And again, there's the aspects of forgiveness, because basically she wants her husband and his child, she wants them to be able to kind of reconcile things so that they're not like just living in bitterness, because she has a personal experience where she did that with a family member. So she's very serious about like other people not doing that. So that was all cool, but like I said, it just didn't keep my attention, but I still rated it a 4 stars because I think the plot itself was still good, and it was still like a needed part of the series, but it wasn't quite a 5-star read. Okay. And then I read or listened to another book. It's called An Adventure Begins, and it is the biography of a missionary. His name is Hudson Taylor. So Hudson Taylor was a missionary in Asia, and this biography of his life, it really talks about his family and like how they played a role in him coming to Christ, like by praying for him and all of that. It talks about how he came to Christ. It talks about his other siblings, and it was a really, really good book. I actually do recommend that you listen to this book or read this book because it is such a good reminder of how we need to just like have faith, like just simple faith, base our lives off of the truth in God's word. And to me, like, that's all that Hudson Taylor did. He just lived by God's word, but he kind of ended up living this like extraordinary life, as a missionary. But there wasn't anything that was actually extraordinary about him, which you'll find out more like as you listen to it, what his childhood is like, how it was actually unlikely that he would even go to Asia, because you think about it, like back then you couldn't just like hop on a plane and go wherever. You had to take this long journey by boat, and so you really needed to be kind of like physically strong and stuff. Anyway, it was like an unlikely thing that happened, and God used him, and it was amazing. I also just really like how it was written. It wasn't just like, okay, Hudson Taylor was born at this time. Like, it wasn't just giving information. You really get into the story, and I feel like you get to know him and his family. So I really, really love that. I gave it the 5 stars. I would read it again. And they also have discussion questions. I didn't do those, but I think that they can be really helpful for, like, I would say most ages. So yeah, I really liked that. So that's it for my June reads, and now I will move on to July. So in July, I read The Quilters Apprentice by Jennifer Chiaverini. My plan was actually to kind of reread the series from the beginning, because I just wanted to like follow the storyline and work through the series. I'm not sure I'm gonna do that now because there's just other books that I'm interested in listening to. So, but yeah, I've read this before. Like I said, I think I said it right. It's the beginning of the Elm Creek Quilt series, so it's the first book in her series. I rated this a 4 stars. I mentioned in another video that if you plan to read the entire series, then I recommend reading this one first. But if you just want to read one book out of the entire series, I would say read The Cross Country Quilters. That book is really good. This is good too. It is slow paced, but still interesting, and it follows a couple. Their name is Matt and Sarah McClure, and then Sylvia, who is really kind of like the main character. Anyway, she is selling this mansion that she used to live in when she was a child, and that's how Matt and Sarah get to know her, is that they both work for her in different ways. And so she ends up, connecting and befriending Sarah and Matt, and she's telling Sarah like the story of her life, all of these things that happened to her, how she like lost her family members, and some people that I don't want to say like burned bridges, but just like some relationship issues, I guess. So Sarah kind of ends up like helping her big time with all of that, but it's really how everything gets started. So it's like the beginning of all the stuff that they do for the following books. And I guess I should say how the quilting comes along in it. So Yes, Sylvia quilts like really, really quilts. Her work is like highly respected. And so Sarah actually wants to learn how to quilt. So Sylvia gives Sarah like quilting lessons. And even the other people that Sarah meets are also quilters. And so that element is like woven into it. And they will talk about like quilting and how it's an art form and all of that. But it's also really just following people's lives. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if I described that well, but yeah, I gave it a 4 stars. And then I wanted to bring these books up here, even though I listened to it on audio. But honestly, guys, I'm kind of tired, so I didn't do it. But I will just say I've been reading the Left Behind series. I think it's a pretty popular series for Christians. But if you've never heard of it, the Left Behind series, it follows the rapture. Um, it follows the rapture and then like the tribulation, everything that happens in the tribulation, and then I think they'll also touch on like the 1,000 year reign. So it's just pretty like fascinating stuff. And so far with all of the books that I've read, which I'll talk about in a minute, I think they really do follow the Bible. And obviously, we don't really know how everything is going to play out, but it's just really, really interesting to see like what these authors wrote. Because I'm thinking, like, wow, they really had to spend time like studying God's word to be able to write all of this. It's it's just really interesting. It's also very fast paced, so I feel like you can go through the books pretty quickly. Not that it matters. But yeah, I like listening to it on audio. They have the dramatic music and stuff, so it's really interesting. But in July, I read Left Behind. That's the first book of the series. And then the second book, Tribulation Force. And then the fourth book, Nicolae. I don't know if I can truly recount everything because there's just like a lot going on. So I'll just tell you what I really appreciated about it. The characters, of course, are very interesting. I think one of the most fascinating parts, without giving too much away, is how they describe the two witnesses and everything that comes with that. That's super interesting. So the first book I rated a 4 stars. Tribulation Force, the second book, I also rated 4 stars because I personally, sorry, my eyes are watering. I personally felt like the third book is Nicolae, which I rated a 5 stars. And I feel like that book, Nicolae, is what I was kind of expecting to get out of the Tribulation Force. Because I think in the second book, it's just the beginning and the start of that force, but we don't really see them like do anything as a tribulation force. That's kind of how I felt. There's still a lot that goes on in all those books, but yeah. So 2 4 star reads, well, 3 4 star reads for July, and then 1 5 star read, which was Nicolae. Really, really good books. Once I finish the series, maybe I'll talk more about it. I don't know. We'll see. I've just been just listening to it whenever I want, but it's so intriguing that after I'm done with one book, I just kind of want to read the next one. So yeah. And now that's it for July. I read 4 books for July, and I will just kind of briefly talk about what I'm currently reading in August. I actually forgot to grab a book, so let me get that. So I'm not going to give too much away about these books because I might do separate videos about some of these. I definitely want to do a separate video about the first book I'm going to talk about, which is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So I started listening to this back in July. It's a pretty long book though. I think the one that I'm listening to, they put like, because I think it was published as 2 different volumes, so they put that together. So it's about 47 chapters, but I love the writing. I think the writing is beautifully done. I like just the moral aspect of it, I guess, because I think it can be kind of hard to find books that, um, I don't want to say that are morally good, but like just books that are like wholesome and make, valid points. I don't know. It's just beautiful. It's a classic, and it does make me want to like read other classics, but we'll just see. So yeah, Little Women, it basically follows four four characters. They're all sisters and their family. So you've got Meg, Joe, Amy, and Beth, and it's just, yeah. I will hopefully, we'll see, God willing, talk about it in another video, but I just think it's so beautifully done and very creative, like even how it's written. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm enjoying it. And then I'm kind of reading this book, but I'm kind of not, because I'm trying to finish Little Women, because I'm on chapter like 37 or 38, I want to say. So I kind of just want to like finish it and not read another book. But I mentioned this in a quick video that I got this book at Barnes and Noble. So this book is called Cherished. It is by Kim Cash Tate. You can find her on YouTube. She does Bible studies. She has a TV series on her YouTube channel. She makes music. Really, really like solid stuff. But yeah, so this is a fiction book, and it's following this girl. Her name is Kelly London. And then I guess it's also gonna follow like Heather Anderson, which I've seen a little bit of her. But yeah, I probably can't do this like justice. As you can see, I'm like barely there. So I will read the back to you. So Kelly London once dreamed of being a songwriter. As crazy as it seemed, she hoped God would use the lyrics that came to her even while she slept. She dreamed about Brian too, that the love they shared as high school students would grow into marriage. But choices that still haunt her destroyed those dreams, until now, when a series of love letters reawakened her hope for the future. Heather Anderson's life has spun out of control. First, an affair with a married man, then a one-night stand with the drummer of a popular Christian band has left her devastated. Broken and alone, she cried out to the only one able to save her. He met her there, but it was just the beginning, because now she must take a different path, and the one God has planned for her looks nothing like the one she envisioned. So, yeah. What I can say about this book so far is that all the characters are very realistic. So I really appreciate that. And Kim Cash Tate, like I've watched a couple of her YouTube videos, and I watched her TV series, and I feel like her voice is so present in this book. So it's really interesting, and yeah, look forward to hopefully reading it after I get through Little Women, because I'm like kind of like really in love with Little Women right now. Anyway, then the other book that I read, I finished Soul Harvest, which I think is, let me see, Left Behind, Tribulation, Forest, Nicolae. Those were all the ones I said, right? So I think Soul Harvest is the fourth book. Also really good. Did I ever give that a rating? I don't think I rated it, but again, maybe I'll talk about this in another video. And then I'm also currently listening to Apollyon, which is the fifth book in the Left Behind series. So that's what I have been reading, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys have been reading down below, and if you really like Little Women, share something about it without giving any spoilers.